Hello everyone, my name is That Gomu Guy. Now returning subscribers may be a little bit confused that I have not done a video in a few months and now I'm doing a non-scripted video on a specific mod for a game called Friday Night Funkin. I'm sure many of you have heard of it, so you guys are probably wondering why I'm doing a video on this. Well, I am the character designer for this mod. It's called A Lecture with Dr. Springheel. So the mod's been out for about 2 weeks, and it had its time in the limelight, and I figured now that the hype has kind of died down, let's have a little developer commentary. I thought that'd be a very fun thing to have, since a lot of people saw the mod and you're like, that's kind of cool, but I wonder what the inspirations are. Or some of them went like, oh hey, it's SCP-049. You guys are fucking hilarious. The other one I got was, the other comment I got was, when the plague doctor is sus. So that's nice. Those are great comments. I'm kidding. You guys are great. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play through it normally, so you guys can get my reactions, and then I'm gonna put on bot play for a second playthrough, and then I'll talk about some aspects about the development. So the next thing I want to talk about is credits. So we have SiniAnimations was the project lead and the animator. We have RainbowSoap, who was one of the composers who composed SinusRhythm. And then we have Samtre, who composed, I'm blanking on the names, HearthThrob and Dysrhymia. I want to take credit for naming Dysrhymia. That was me. I named that because I found that because that's a heart term, and I was like, that sounds like a cool, edgy anime attack, and I want that as the final song because that sounds cool. And then we have Smokey, who was the programmer. And I'm gonna put all their social links up here, except for Sam. He doesn't have any social links because he's a bitch. And then the last credit is me. I made Dr. Springheel. I designed him, and I made the background, and I wrote the story. So let's get into it. I'm gonna play normal because the other thing I want to mention, I'm fucking awful at rhythm games. You know what? I keep forgetting this. Sorry to keep coming back to this screen, but I want to mention this first. This menu sketch, I was working up until release. This thing kept changing all the time. But a little fun fact for y'all. Do I still have bot play on? Hang on. Yes, I still had bot play on. Alrighty. And there's the little boy right there. There's SCP-049, also known as Dr. Jack Springheel. I woke up at 5:30 this morning. I couldn't fall back asleep. And now it's 9:30. I've been awake for 4 hours. And I got work in like 3 hours. I'm gonna work longer than I've been asleep. Ah, you are here. Thank you for helping my studies along. Bip. Surely you are aware of the nature of our meeting today. There's an extra space between of and the. Cine, what the fuck is wrong with you? Honestly, I think his head filters out anything that isn't singing or me. I didn't write that part. Cine added that. So I don't give a fuck. Ah, not to worry. I will reiterate. I left my official studies in order to understand the most complex and elusive of ideas. The heart. In the romantic sense or in the fleshy sense? In the fucking gross sense? Sorry. Both, and therein lies the issue at hand. It came to me on the loneliest, foggiest night in memory, waltzing down a cobbled road. Beep beep. Cobblestone, not cobble pie. You fucking moron! On this path I overheard a lovely woman sing with her strained yet beautiful voice, struggling to hide her pain with heavenly notes. This part was way longer in the original. There's so much dialogue I had to cut. A lot of people, I do want to say I am the writer, so I'm responsible for the dialogue. I want to apologize. This dialogue was originally way longer, and then City took me out back and he beat me up until I made it shorter. My own heart changed irrevocably. All those thousands of pounds sunk into scientific pursuits, and one fair woman changes my whole perspective. Since that night, my research led me to numerous sonorous theories and physical trials in the hopes of replication. Perhaps you too can help. Sounds to me like you just had a crush on a pretty lady. Many women I have met afterwards prompted the same conclusion. But what can I say? I am a perfectionist. Now the question is, can you keep up? No, not at all. I'm really fucking bad at rhythm games, dude. Can I just leave? You're pretty fucking... Dude, you're pretty fucking sus, dude. I'm gonna leave. I hate that. Sure. Yes! That is the spirit, my boy!
3, 2, 1.
And now we begin. So the fun part about this is that I originally recorded a different video, a different commentary, and that did not turn out great because I was playing. Not only was I playing an older version, but I kept forgetting things I wanted to talk about. So there's that. Now I have a little notepad next to me that has all the details. Fuck! This song is so good. So Sini was the one who was responsible for organizing the whole thing, and he collected us. I don't know why I said it like it was we were just hanging out somewhere, and he's like, "Hey, here's an idea," which is kind of what happened. So Sini was the one who organized this whole thing, and he selected me for writing, drafting the character. He got Samtre. Originally, it was me, Samtre, and Sini. And then RainbowSoap came in later, and then Smokey was the person who compiled it. So yeah, that's what happened. And when I started work, I knew what Friday Night Funkin' was. I knew it was the funny rhythm game with the small blue-haired boy who is Hatsune Miku's brother. But that's all I knew. So going into it, I had very little idea of what I was doing. Even when Sini sent me reference videos, I kind of just scanned them over. It was like, I get the idea. I didn't understand that there were dialogue cutscenes, or dialogue scenes rather. So what I did when I got to the writing phase, I'll talk about the drawing phase because that came earlier. I'll talk about that later. So what I did, I didn't understand. So what I thought what the character description, what the writing was for like character descriptions in like in the menus. So I wrote this big fuck off massive page of stuff where it was written from Springheel's perspective, and I sent it to Sini and was like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And he's like, "What the fuck do I do with this, dude?" I was like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do as a writer? He was like, "Did you watch any of the fucking videos I sent you?" I was like, "Not really." I kind of just scanned through them. Case in point, we're gonna find some proof of this, where I didn't know much about this game going into production. So this line is interesting. So we currently hold the record of the shortest dialogue sequence for FNF mods, at least at the time this was released. Because of this one line. And the reason being, I didn't write this line. This was Sini. He thought, I asked him about this yesterday. He thought it was a little too awkward that the phase one would just go to the second one, especially when phase one was so word heavy. So he put this line in. So that's why the intro is a little bit long. I didn't know you could have a break in between the phases. I knew there was a break between the first two phases and the final phase where things change, but I didn't know there was one between the first and the second. So I just left that blank. So thanks, Sini. We hold a record. I'm doing remarkably better than I did last time. Last time was not great. I accidentally muted the music and I didn't know how. So I had to reboot, and then I realized what it was. I hit my fucking fat thumb on the numpad, and it turned the volume down. That was fun. So I'll promise that I'll get to more in-depth talk about how I made certain things once I get bot play on, because I cannot talk and focus on this at the same time. Even though I'm doing remarkably better than I did last time, it was pretty bad. There's so many people dunking on the difficulty of this fucking thing. It's like, oh, it's too easy. Shut up. You see if I'm struggling. I'm bad at this game. You ever hear developers where they're like, I can't play the games that I make because I'm bad at that type of game. And you're like, how the fuck do you make that game anyway? But I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to understand that. Fuck me. I am really bad at this game. I'm sorry. So yeah, the first song was SinusRhythm. That was made by RainbowSoap. This one we're playing right now, HearthThrob. That was Samtre. HearthThrob was originally going to be the first song, but Sini decided to switch it up. I think it was a really good call, because SinusRhythm is a great bop. Not to say HearthThrob isn't a great bop, but SinusRhythm is a nicer note to start on, because it's got this mystical. I will say, I did see a comment that said that it kind of had this detective vibe to it. I was like, that's interesting that person said that. So when HearthThrob comes around, you're like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. It's a different tone. It's more happy, more upbeat. You probably didn't notice because I was talking over it. But, you know, that happens. I didn't even read the last one. I see. Now keep up the pace, you bitch. Sini said that was a heart pun. I didn't. I mean, it's just a common saying, but sorry, dude. I would have been like, hey, keep up the pace, maker. You're gonna die. Interesting. I've not had this much trouble in such a battle since Boss stepped into my arena. This line, I feel this line feels different. I don't remember writing it this way. But I will say, a lot of people speculated that Boss was a girlfriend's father. It's not. Boss is a completely different person. I'm referencing a specific person with Boss. So reading this line as it is, and people don't really know who Springheel's really based on. So this line is a little weird once they do find out. Oh, that's bizarre. But anyway, who? Where the fuck? A fool long dead. Do not worry. Regardless, this battle has been beneficial. Very much so. Incredibly so. What the fuck? Why am I laughing? I didn't say that. This practical exercise has exceeded my expectations. I cannot thank you enough. The two of you truly have shown the heart that touched mine so long ago. Mission accomplished, sir? Yes, thank you two very much. Although, there is still one thing left to procure. What? Your hearts! I must see them! Whoa! Your hearts, your love, it is pure. It is similar to hers, similar to all of theirs. Yours must look similar to theirs as well, and I will find out. I don't like this. Me neither. Seriously, hon? What? I'm sorry. I love my work. I will start again. Oh, she's got a knife! Run! I'll talk more about it when the bot play comes into the play, because I need to I was not doing good in this phase in the last video I recorded, so let me just focus. Damn it. See, I told you I'm not good at this game. I'm not even to the hard part yet. Fuck. Please don't kill me. I want to live a life of I'm I lived. I'm okay. The accuracy 25. I think I'm doing good. See, my problem is that I confuse the up and down. I'm just fucking slapping the keyboard. I'm gonna die. I lived! I'm okay! I lived, bitch! I'm not good at rhythm games. That's why I'm gonna do bot play for this next part. Yay! We beat it on the first try. The last time I did this, I took like 5 tries. Oh, God. so I'm not good at rhythm games. But now we're gonna turn on bot play, and then we're gonna talk about some particulars that take a while to get into, so I'm going to get distracted. Let's see, what should I start off? So a lot of people don't know, so when Cini first gathered us, what happened was Samtre got to work on collecting samples for Boyfriend's Grunts, and then he designed how, and then he tried to figure out how Springheel would sound. What I did, and I'll throw up some designs on screen. The first thing I did, I made up 12 random designs off the top of my head, and then we voted on which ones we would go forward with. And Springheel, I think, was the third or fourth design I had come up with. There are some other designs we're keeping in the back pocket for the possibility. No guarantees yet. No guarantees yet. But for the possibility of another mod, we don't know yet. We're figuring it out. So no promises, you naughty bitch. So Springheel's design was originally a lot more polygonal, a lot of triangles and circles and squares, shapes. So what I tend to do is I create very shaped sketches. When I'm designing a character, I kind of go off what I'm feeling in the moment. So I do a whole bunch of big shapes and I slam them together. So Springheel's original design was like way weirder, but then I refined him, and then Cini converted him into sprites. So that was fun. So Springheel was probably the most fun I had in the mod. I was also the one who drew the background. I did 90% of the background, and I drew the fireplace. But the original perspective was so fucked that once I sent the finished version over, Cini just dragged it up and corrected it. And I want to thank you for that, Cini, because it looks a lot better now. maybe I'll show the original image, because that was fucking weird looking. So I can't remember if I did say that. So originally I had written a giant passage written from Dr. Springheel's perspective about himself and his travels that had a lot of lore and explanation and clues and twists in it. But after I found out what the fucking game and what my fucking job was, I had to compact the passage, and then I had to cut a lot of tertiary lines that didn't go anywhere. And then I had to rewrite a whole bunch of stuff. I was pretty adamant about not cutting any more than what made it into the final mod. But seeing a lot of people's reactions, I may have gone a little bit overboard. I think the biggest problem, and I've seen a lot of criticism about the dialogue, is that it doesn't feel like it blends. It feels like it does the worst thing possible, which is like, surely you already know what we're doing here, right? Oh, you don't? Let me re-explain. I hate it when media does that, but I did it. I did it myself. I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad writer. Someone kill me. I'm glad I stopped on this lot. I didn't know how many people I would trip up, because I've seen most of the Let's Plays. Anyone that had like an actual reaction to it, I watched. Even ones in different languages, because I was curious to see what happened. A lot of people tripped over the word irrevocably. So there's irrevocably and how I just said it, irrevocably. That's the cooler way to say it in a British accent. My terrible British accent. But yeah, it was fun watching that happen. So a lot of people missed. I can't remember if I rewrote that or Cini changed it. Originally that was health and surgical. So Dr. Springheel, he's supposed to be a surgeon. That's why he pulls out a scalpel in the final phase. He's a surgeon. He cuts people up. Sonorous. A lot of people tripped over sonorous too. I tried to gussy up the dialogue. I do admit I tried to gussy up the dialogue a little bit. I didn't think I'd trip up that many people. But yeah, I kind of regret making the dialogue that long. I think I could have shortened it in a lot of places and paced it out better in more with the second phase, which is if if we're going to do a second mod, that is something I'm trying to focus on, trying to create more succinct dialogue that feels more natural and it doesn't feel like a slog to read because you're just reading this guy talking. It's not really a conversation between these three people. It's Springheel talking a lot and occasionally girlfriend responds. So yeah, this background is fun to draw. So a lot of people picked up correctly that it's based on a Victorian London apartment. So I had to look up a lot of interior reference photos, and apparently a staple of Victorian Londonian apartment is like horrific wallpaper. Like there's some shit I saw in there is like, why was that even committed to the wall? How did someone paste that and go, and that's good, leave it on there for centuries? And it has a little bit difficult. So every element you see in this background is a separate, except for the fireplace. The fireplace is drawn onto the background, the base layer, but the portraits, the little newsletter up there, the bookcase, obviously the tables in front, those are separate elements I had to separate. Originally, the bookcase was part of the background base layer, but Cine said that it looked weird in front of the sprites, so I had to separate the whole thing and then move it along. And then it turns out I had to redo the dimensions. I got Black Cauldron and I drew it in the wrong dimensions, so I had to redo the lines, the black lines in the background. I had to extend some of the textures. Thankfully, it wasn't too difficult. I had the foresight, to separate enough. So it wasn't that difficult, but I did have to separate the bookcase a little bit. But I will say, it's funny, a lot of people... I'll wait until this phase is over. Let's see if there's some other stuff. So it was interesting watching... I will say, because I'm the background artist and the character designer and the writer, my stuff was finished relatively early. I did show the design in the background, so my work was finishing that because I knew the basic story and I already had the character design ready to go. So it's mostly me waiting on Cine with the animation, Soap and Sam with the music, and then Smokey to put it all together. So a lot of the conversations we had, they were like, "Oh, this sound font isn't too great. Maybe we should swap with this. Maybe we should make a higher pitch, or maybe a faster beats per minute. Blah blah blah." And I'm just sitting there going, "I draw. That's my job. I draw the thing." I will say, Cine was the one. It was Cine's idea to have the wooden stereos, and that was a nice, lovely touch. So I will say, this style of background is very different from the usual FNF mods. I tried to blend it as best I could. Realistically, it probably would have been a lot easier if I copied the style wholesale. But what I did instead, I made the line art a little bit fatter, and especially with the floorboards underneath, I made that kind of flatter, and I used a different shading style to make it look like a kind of like charcoal. Charcoal look to it, like it was kind of like smeared with like a rag instead of just straight shadows, because realistically I'm not good at shading. That's not my thing. I'm decent at color selection, but shading that's something I take a long time to do correctly. But there is a lot of stuff I had to consider when I was making the background, because what I like to do, I like to make the background its own character, because there's a lot of stuff. Again, there's a lot of stuff I had to cut from Springheel's dialogue and his general story. So I used the stuff I cut out and I put it into the background. So a lot of people think that the central inspiration is Springheel Jack, which was a Londonian myth, urban myth, where he had fiery red eyes and he hopped from building to building. He was a prankster, basically. If you played AC Syndicate, you know Springheel Jack. The interesting thing is that Springheel, it wasn't changed at the last minute, but Springheel was definitely a late stage name change. Originally, his name was just Jack, But Cine thought that was a little too vague of a name, so Springheel came into the mix because I remember, oh, Springheel Jack, that's a nice myth. And it turns out there's a lot more in common with Dr. Springheel and the Springheel myth. Like the red eye thing, I saw the wiki and it said, oh, Springheel Jack had fiery red eyes, and Springheel in his final phase has that. That was a coincidence. that wasn't intentional. There's a lot of stuff that accidentally came into the mix. Like there's one thing I will say. Sam has said that people have figured out who he's based on, but I haven't seen it for myself, so I can only go off what I've seen. There was someone who got real close to the type of real inspiration that Springheel's based on, and it was a VTuber by the name of Kikyoberry, and she got shockingly close. Especially with, she was the first person to mention like, oh, there's like details in the background. I wonder what it means. It's like, oh, thanks. You're the first person to look. There have been a lot of people, and I thank everyone who have said that the background is really good, you know, because it's so detailed. There's a lot of stuff in there, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. It was a lot of work. But yeah, I was watching that video of Kikyo Berries, and she was like, oh, plague doctor's masks had flowers in the little flap to protect them from the plague, which didn't work, but you know, that's what they thought would work. And I was watching that and I was like, shit, I didn't know that. I drew a triangle and it's like, oh, that kind of looks like a plague doctor's mask. Let's refine this. That's really how it came about. There's a lot of Springheel that I kind of just, not made up as I went along, but there was stuff where I was like, yeah, this looks cool. Let's find out a reason for it. So everything concerning the art and the dialogue has a specific purpose. And if you look hard enough, you will easily find out who Springheel's really based on. When it came to the dialogue, I had to be really careful. I'll keep that a secret because no one's quite figured it out yet. And I wanted to, if people haven't figured out, I want them to have the joy of finding it out for themselves. Once again, if you analyze the dialogue bit by bit, you will easily find out who Springheel's based on. Oh, he's got a knife! That screenshot, I saw a thumbnail, and it's gotta be my favorite thumbnail of any Springheel video. I can't remember what it said, but it's like, oh no, my doctor took out a knife. What will I do? And it's all done in like Arial font. There's white circles and there's emoticons of like frowning faces. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I love it. So the slime coming out of his mask. Originally it was going to be black, but Sinia said it didn't look good, mixed with the shading and everything. So it got changed to a deep purple. But what is in that mask? Who knows? Maybe there's a lore explanation for it. There's a lot of stuff I wrote that kind of got lost in translation. But, you know, that happens. I'm fine with it. My thing is that if someone doesn't get something, that's mostly a fault on my behalf, and I should, if I specifically want someone to get a particular theme or something, I try to make that come across without bashing it over the person's head. And that's what I tried to do. Well, yeah, we're coming to the end. And you know, the desaturation, that wasn't me. That was Cindy's idea. And the cracked portraits and the newsletter. Yeah. The little ink pot, that was me. All the background elements and the fireplace originally was so fucked. Cindy, again, if you're watching this, I thank you very much. I believe that's it. Now let's just watch SCP-049 try to kill these two children because he is sus. Haha, 420. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. I have slept for exactly 4 hours, and I'm about to fall over dead. I believe that's it. So that I hope you guys enjoyed the little developer commentary. I don't know how much I'm gonna keep in, or don't know how much I'm gonna cut out. I do want to say, on behalf of the developer team for the A Lecture with Dr. Springheel mod, thank you all for playing our game. We hit, I believe the last time I checked, it was 18,000 downloads. That's crazy. Thank you guys so much for playing and enjoying the Dr. Springheel mod. If you didn't enjoy it, what the fuck, dude? No, I'm just kidding. I believe that's it. So once again, thank you all for playing the Dr. Springheel mod, and look forward to the future where we may have future endeavors with a mod. Maybe. No guarantees. No promises. But, you know, it might happen. But there is one last thing I want to say. Concerning lore and Dr. Springheel and everything concerning him. No one's found the Star Trek reference yet,